I can't stand behind something that I don't personally love.
Hi, everyone. It's Kara Goldin from The Kara Goldin Show, and I'm super excited to have my next guest. I have Mara Smith here, who is the founder and CEO of Inspiro Tequila, and she has an amazing backstory. Inspiro just recently launched, and you're going to hear all about her early journey and all the things you go through when you're just starting a company. So we're really, really excited to have her share a little bit more about that. And after years of being an attorney and corporate strategist, Mara made the entrepreneurial leap and created Inspiro Tequila. She was not only looking for one that tasted awesome, but didn't have all the extra stuff in it. I'm thrilled to hear more from Mara and the story of Inspiro. And I have to say, the stuff is pretty great. As I mentioned to Mara that my college kids were home, and I have to say they got into the Inspiro Tequila and thought it was quite nice. And so thank you. And they thank you as well. But thank you so much, Mara. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
So I want to go back to the beginning. You went not super far back, but you went to law school and were an attorney. What kind of law were you practicing?
I was doing transactional. So I was actually practicing commercial real estate. At the time, it was the largest law firm in Chicago.
Awesome. And then you went into corporate strategy after that, not at the law firm, right? You were...
Right. So I guess I decided that, one, I thought I was going to try and start a family soon. And given my insane amount of hours I was billing, I did not think that was going to be practical to do, even though the law firm experience was extraordinary and I just learned so much and so quickly. But I thought, okay, let me try and use my business side. I have an undergrad business degree and I was going to move to the corporate side. So I joined the corporate strategy and business development team at McDonald's.
Awesome. Very, very cool. So I bet that was really pretty fun and interesting to be at McDonald's. I mean, what was like the thing that you learned the most when you were there?
I actually think McDonald's kind of sparked my entrepreneurial spirit, to be honest. I was on this like really straight path, like this very conservative path and linear trajectory, right? So I studied accounting, and then after that, you go to straight to law school. After going to law school, I made sure to get a job at a big firm so I could pay off my law school loans. And all of a sudden I was in a totally new environment, and I was part of an incubator project that they were doing at McDonald's where we were studying, trends and customer insights and ideating and coming up with like new concepts. I was just fascinated by the whole process, and I feel like that all of a sudden kind of took my blinders off maybe a little bit, and to see that there are all these other kind of like opportunities and areas that you can go into
that you just had no idea even existed. So really, really
Yes.
interesting. Another great example. We've had many people talking about that where they're inside of an advertising agency or, they get to work inside of a large company, never really thinking that they'll be working on innovation necessarily. But when they do, they get the bug, right? To go out and start their own thing. So definitely a familiar dialogue that we've heard before. So I guess you were pretty inspired by, kind of what you saw there. Did you think about any entrepreneurs growing up that were super inspirational to you? Maybe you didn't think like, oh, I'm going to go down their path because you were going to go to law school, or initially you were going to go into accounting or finance, it sounds like. Like when you think back, I mean, who was it that was kind of super inspiring to you?
Actually, I'd say my grandparents. So my grandparents immigrated to the United States and actually brought my mother here after the war. They were both Holocaust survivors. And they came here with really very little education, formal education, because they were both very young when they went into camps. So I saw them, and my grandfather especially had really an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, I think he opened like the first Barton's chocolate store that was in Chicago. I just saw him going to lots of different ventures and eventually actually opening, a family run dry cleaning business. And that's the business that I grew up with my family running. And so I saw that. I saw someone who just with drive and passion and, without a lot of maybe education, but had like an incredible business acumen. So I think that was really inspirational for me. I did choose a way more stable route when I was deciding what I was going to do, but I do think that was the inspiration. I mean, as a little girl, my dream, which probably is not what a lot of little girls think of, was to become a Supreme Court justice. So that's what led me on my path to law school. They were both very inspirational.
Well, Supreme Court justice is pretty cool role as well. You never know, right? You could still get there at some point. So tequila. So tell us a little bit about how you got the idea for Inspiro Tequila.
After leaving the corporate world, and it actually was a pretty abrupt departure, I became pregnant with twins when I was at McDonald's and was put on emergency bed rest. So after, having preemie twins, I made the decision, which was probably the biggest pivot in my life experience, was to stay home and focus on my family and stay home and raise them. And, they needed my attention. And I think it's something I'd never even considered that would be my path. And I don't think anyone who knew me and kind of how driven and focused I was thought that would be the path I took either. But I did, but I always knew I wanted to start my own company. So I was always coming up with ideas and things were in the back of my head of what I would do and that I wanted to eventually, re-enter the workforce. So as I was thinking about a lot of different ideas, I knew I wanted to be something that I actually really liked and enjoyed the product. I became a tequila drinker, years ago. I was looking for a clean spirit that fit my kind of active, healthier lifestyle. I've been gluten-free for over 10 years. And I love wine, but I'd wake up feeling badly the next day, or I drink vodka and for some reason it would wake me up in the middle of the night. So I started really drinking good quality tequila, not the bad stuff that, used to get you sick in college. And, it doesn't have sugar. It's just a cleaner spirit option. And it became my drink of choice. And I started converting a lot of girlfriends to become tequila drinkers. So I was discovering all these women were choosing tequila, but I didn't feel any of the brands were really focused on them as a primary consumer. The marketing often involves like scantily clad women or dark club scenes and just things that didn't personally resonate with me. I also began to do a lot of research on the category and discovered that over half of tequila drinkers are female. So I was just curious why this consumer is overlooked by so many spirits brands. And I was also surprised to learn that many tequila brands use additives to enhance their flavor and color. So here I was choosing to drink tequila because I thought it was like a cleaner drink option. And I thought, well, I don't want additives like glycerin and flavoring and coloring added then. So I just started searching for a brand that I thought had like a look, a taste, an aroma that appealed to me, but that didn't have any additives. I guess I didn't find one. So I had this crazy idea that I would just start my own. So my goal was just really to create something for a thoughtful consumer like me. And I conducted focus groups of, female drinkers and followed up with a survey. I wanted to create something really that was consumer focused. So getting the feedback and seeing the brands they like and what they were looking for, and women being, the main entertainer in the home and having a bottle that they could proudly display. So basically I went about and, wanted to create this sleek and sophisticated looking bottle that stood out on the shelves. And I wanted to recreate the taste profiles that they were telling us that they gravitate towards, but without using additives. So, it also did not take much due diligence to figure out that there are, that women are generally underrepresented in the spirits industry, like in so many industries. So I thought there was an opportunity to bring a female perspective and to have women involved in every part of our process, from creating the taste profiles to, getting it on the shelves. So
definitely.
That started it.
Well, you touched on this a little bit. This was one of my later questions, but I'll just go back to it. So it's created and led by women. In fact, you have one of the few female tequila master distillers, I noticed, in the world helping you. So first of all, how did you go about finding this person? And also, like, why was it so important to you?
So once I knew that I was interested and wanted to start this, I am a researcher. So I just dove right in and I started researching everything that I could find, from listening to webinars and reading industry journals, everything. So I actually read a ton of books. One of those books was The Women in Tequila, and it is a very small book, but I read The Women in Tequila. I found Ana Maria Romero Mina in it as one of the, legendary master distillers. I read about her process. She's the first person who developed like the aroma wheel in tequila. And I actually thought, wow, aroma is really important, especially for my consumer. I thought this would be very significant. So I decided, okay, I want her. I had consultants down in Mexico, and I basically just found a way to, have them track her down and take a Zoom meeting with me, because it was in the midst of COVID. There was no way for me to actually get to Mexico at that point.
Right.
And she loved the idea, and she'd never worked for a woman-owned brand before. It was important to me, because if I was going to say I'm bringing this unique perspective, an outsider, and another female perspective, and giving women like another voice in the industry, I just thought I couldn't do that unless I really had women involved in every part of the process. And creating the taste profiles and being able to kind of bring the vision to life was really essential, and having her do that.
How difficult was it to create a product? I mean, you're doing it in the middle of COVID over Zoom. I mean, in another country. How difficult was it? What was the toughest part of creating the product?
Well, many things in dealing with you're dealing with operations in a foreign country. And I'm generally someone who likes to be in control of a lot of things. And this required giving up a lot of control, which was not easy. I have to rely on other people. I couldn't be there. I couldn't be there for the first run. And I think, making sure I had people on the ground there and consultants who can oversee operations for me was really important. But it's not easy, right? I'm dealing with getting raw materials from one country, getting it to another country, and trying to do this all when the distillery is having, shutdowns during COVID. So, but I think you have to, no matter what, you just have to find people who are local and who can help manage things. I would like to know what's going on every day, all the time. But that's just not practical.
Yeah. No, exactly. How long did it take from the moment that you decided, okay, I'm going to go do this, beginning research, to actually having a product that you could sell?
It ended up taking much longer than I had anticipated.
It always does.
And which is always, I knew it was going to take longer. But one of the reasons was, so because I couldn't be there, a major obstacle that occurred during this, process was the first run was done. I wasn't there. I couldn't be there for the tasting. Ana Maria was managing the, entire process, and I trust her implicitly. But I was anxiously waiting for my samples to come. And by the time they got through customs, I finally got them, and I was all excited. And then I was really devastated because I didn't like it. And Ana Maria wasn't happy with it either. It just wasn't the taste profile I was looking for. I knew that it wasn't something that I could put out there. Sure. Here I had created this gorgeous bottle that took a long time to perfect. And I really wanted, to have the same quality inside with the liquid. So that really delayed me. So what people had proposed is maybe we combine this production run with the next production run that was getting started. And it just didn't sit well with me. I thought, okay, I don't really want like a mediocre, taking something bad with something good and mixing it. I just want to get rid of the whole thing. So clearly that was a huge setback financially as well as on our timeline. So my goal was to launch, Cinco de Mayo of 2021. And we ended up launching end of September of 2021.
Yeah.
So it ended up taking about 18 to 19 months, which I know isn't that long, but when you're in it, it feels like a long time.
Totally. Well, it always does. Greg Renfrew from Beauty Counter, I had her on and we were laughing because it's always when you hear plans like, we're going to do this on this date. And this is especially for new entrepreneurs. And then, we're going to sell it in 2 years and we're going to do this. We're like, it's just, it just won't happen. It just never does. So it always takes so much longer. So I totally relate. So one of the questions that I always ask is, tell me a story in building your company, where there was either triumph, loss, or adversity, and tell me what you learned from that experience.
Well, I really think there are two big things that I think for me were major challenges, and one being kind of an internal challenge and one an external one. And I think the internal one was, I was coming back entering into a totally new industry and re-entering the workforce after being home for many years. And I think, honestly, the hardest thing for me to overcome was my own mindset. I think many women probably feel this way if they have a gap in the resume. They kind of don't remember their value. When I was on the partnership track at a large law firm or, climbing the corporate ladder at McDonald's, I really never questioned my skills and abilities. And all of a sudden, after being home, I did. And I kept doubting myself, can I really do this? Am I qualified to do this? And so to earn credibility, so one, I started doing everything really secretively without telling anyone. And in order to earn credibility, I really put myself to task and just started researching like everything I could. So I went into researching the industry and talked about, webinars and reading and trying to, get information from like industry experts. I also took a course by the CRT, which is the governing body for tequila in Mexico, to become certified in the history and production of tequila making. And I took this approach with like every aspect of the business. So I knew nothing about social media. So I signed up for tutorials and master classes. I studied all the compliance issues and regulations around alcohol, since it's such a highly regulated industry. And, the laws have been around since post-prohibition, 1933. So doing all of this due diligence actually reminded me that I actually honed incredible research skills, in law school. And I still was using research skills even when I was home, if it was researching, camps or non-toxic cleaning products. But I think I did just what a lot of women do. And, I didn't tell anybody until I had this like extensive knowledge and I felt like I could answer any question. I wasn't ready to like announce my idea or put it out there in the world. I just thought I had to do so much legwork to be taken seriously and feel credible. I'm not sure the men feel like maybe they have to do as much of the legwork and research to kind of put like an idea out there, but I did. And I just think, I hope that my story can actually, resonate with other women, that it's not too late. And maybe it's not, starting a new company. Maybe it's that there's a profession that you always dreamed of entering, or you wanted to work in an art gallery, or, there are resources out there. You can't get around doing the hard work, and you have to do the due diligence and get up to speed, but there are resources to do that quickly. But I think it's also recognizing all the skills you had up until the point where maybe you shifted to being home, you still have, and you acquired new skills at home. I had preemie twins. I can multitask like nobody's business. I learned efficiency, flexibility, as with kids, like no day ever goes according as planned, and same with the business. So there are actually skills that are very applicable that I learned that apply to starting a new business. But I didn't give myself the credit for that and really, acknowledge that. And I think that was the first huge hurdle for me to get started, was kind of getting over my own, mindset. And really the second external one was the story I told you about, the first production run. It did not go right. And it was a really big disappointment for me. And here I was so excited, and I didn't want to put the product out, and I knew it was going to take more time and money. And there's this urge, like, I just wanted to finally have it out, but I had to make a really tough decision to not use it and I think the learning there for me was, no matter what, quality above all else. Like, I have to feel proud of it. I have to, I have to love it. I can't stand behind something that I don't personally love. And, that, and I think learning, a lot of flexibility, because obviously that was one hurdle. There have been many more since, and there will be many more to come. But, just problem solving. Okay, what's plan B? Plan B didn't work. What's plan C? I'm like, okay, Cinco de Mayo, that's a great holiday. Well, you know what another great holiday is? I'm like, how about, I just kept pushing back the holidays. So, but I think that was an important learning for me that, up until that point, I'd like to be like a very planned, organized person, and like nothing goes according to plan. And I'm glad it maybe took me a little later in life to learn this kind of flexibility, but I am now.
Yeah,
So.
no, I love it. Well, I think it's just a lot of what you're describing too is just being vulnerable and being okay with being vulnerable. And when you're in, control, and this is a whole new mindset. And I was having a conversation with my husband about this earlier today, that it's just, going from that zero mark to actually something it takes a whole new section of your brain. I mean, you can go to school forever, right? You can go and work at, the best companies and get all kinds of experience, but there's this scrappiness. There's this, what the heck? I'm going to give it a try. And that you have to be able to fall down, right? You have to be able to know that it may or may not work. And I think when you're used to perfection, when you're used to organization, when you're used to timelines and strategies, it's a really, really tough thing. And it's, it's why the failure rate of so many companies, I guess, it really, you don't have to go to business school in order to start a company. You don't have to graduate from college or, to really have the skills. You have to have this vision and tenacity. And it's not to say that if you don't have the education and skills, you can't do it, but it really you got to shift your brain in order to go and get it done. And also eventually, as you scale, then hire the right people that can kind of help you along the way too, to be able to scale, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely aware that there are plenty of areas that I am not going to be the best at, and, being self-aware of what I'm really good at and what I'm not. And that there are people who probably can do many, many of those things better than I can. But
well, one of the things that you and I were talking about that I love this organization, WBENC, and I don't think we've actually talked about WBENC at all on any of my podcasts, and I'm very familiar with it. WBENC is a certification program for women. It's not women owned. Is it women-owned company? Mm-hmm. It is women-owned companies. So definitely, if you've already raised money from firms that are primarily male-owned, then it is really difficult, if not impossible, to get the funding. So it's something that Mara and I were chatting about. It's definitely something that you want to do early. There's lots of amazing connections you can make through getting the WBENC certification. So do you want to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, but also programming. I mean, talk about that. I had to learn so much about so many different aspects of starting business. And once you're WBENC certified, there's all this amazing programming that you can do for free. I'm in I'm in like an entire class on digital marketing. And it's something I knew nothing about marketing, right? So I came from I have accounting and legal strategy. Marketing was this whole big black hole for me. And here I'm on my, second full class of learning every aspect from SEO. I mean, I'm not going to be the expert, but I want to know enough to understand the terminology, enough to to make decisions. There are definitely going to be people who can handle those things better than me, but I think it's a great way to really educate yourself on so many areas. And they just have great programming and a really great community.
Well, you nailed it on the community aspect, because I think one of the hardest things that I hear from entrepreneurs, and I certainly felt this as well, is that it's really lonely, right? You're just starting out, you're trying, especially if you're trying to figure out a new industry or a new category, as we were doing as well. It's, it's really challenging. And I think that the beauty of WBENC is it's many different industries. And so it's kind of, misery is company some days, but also people that have been through what you've been through and are able to support you. So definitely I found, a whole group of people there. And I think that's the big thing, is finding your communities, whether it's WBENC or, as I mentioned before, when you get a little bit bigger, EY has an amazing program called Winning Women that is so good. And again, it's filled with women who are scaling their businesses and kind of hitting. I think the minimum is, it's 8 million, and 8 to. There's some that are even bigger than 20 million, but it's really interesting because there are different issues that come up along the way. And how do you hire? How do you get rid of the people that, are not actually helping you to sort of do what you need to be doing in order to scale, and figuring out different people for different size companies and all those kind of things. I think finding these communities and people who have done it are just really, really important. Yeah. So I loved hearing a little bit more about that. So tell me, last thing on the Inspiro Purple Bicycle Project that you're a part of.
This kind of actually relates to you talking about community. So one of the first things I also did is reach out and find communities of amazing female founders and leaders. And the collaboration in these groups, I mean, I do think it is a lonely journey. I'm a solo entrepreneur, but finding these women to connect to, it's been amazing. And honestly, one of the most, exciting parts of the entire journey is I've connected with these incredible women who are there to offer guidance and feedback. And you put an ask out there and someone will answer it. So I think, and because of that, and because I feel like I've get such a warm reception and people have been just gone above and beyond to kind of help me out. When I think about the Inspiro Purple Bicycle Project, for me, setting out on this, journey and starting a new venture and re-entering the workforce, it just was important to me that I could also, there be a social impact piece and that I would give back. So I think about everybody who's been so supportive and helpful, and I want to do the same thing. So it's a big part of this is, my ability to inspire and support other female founders and support them in their, startups. And if it's offering, grants through certain organizations and mentoring, I love meeting with people. And, I'm not that far along my journey, but I still feel like I've learned enough to give advice, and maybe I've interviewed 20 agencies in this area, and I can save you a little bit of time because I've done a lot of legwork.
Definitely. Well, that is so great that you're doing that. And I think it is really finding these communities and people that can help you, because they are out there for sure. So, and so many tidbits, I think, come through this podcast too, just by interviewing people and sort of the stuff that they've learned as well. So even if it's not a physical world or a virtual world connection. I think actually learning and listening to how people went through their journey and how they got through the challenging times and what they learned, and to some extent shortcuts along the way is just really, really critical. So I love this interview so much. And Mara, so where can people find you? Where can people purchase Inspiro Tequila as well and give it a try?
Well, right now we're available for sale on our website, which is inspirotequila.com, INSPIRO, tequila.com. And you can follow me and my very novice journey on Instagram at Be Inspired by Mara and Inspiro Tequila. So at Inspiro Tequila. But you could see that it's me trying to figure out my way around the social media world.
I love it. No, it's definitely great. Well, Mara, thank you so much for speaking with me and sharing your story and sharing the Inspiro story. And I wish you the best of luck. I'm very, very excited to be trying it very, very soon again inside retail stores and restaurants, and definitely go online to purchase Inspiro. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the Kara Goldin Show, and definitely go in, if you would, and give ratings and reviews. They're very, very important to show up on algorithms where podcasts are found. So I hope you guys will all do that. And definitely give that 5-star rating to this episode too for Mara, and get the latest from me daily on all social media channels at Kara Goldin. That's with an I. And shameless plug, if you haven't had a chance to purchase my book, either on Audible or at your favorite bookstore or on Amazon, it's called Undaunted: Overcoming Doubts and Doubters. And you can hear and read more about my story through that book just by reading or listening to it. So hopefully you'll get a chance to go ahead and purchase that. And last but not least, grab a case of Hint at stores. You can even add it with Inspiro if you like. No gluten, none of that bad stuff. So definitely you won't be sorry. So thanks everybody, and goodbye for now.